Hello, hello, everybody. How is everyone? Hi! I think you should be able to see me now. I can't see what you're seeing because I'm doing the desktop thing. Hello and welcome. Yes, we are doing a Lolita Patterns and Sewing panel with the Winter in the Woodlands online event. This is very exciting. I personally am a little bit nervous to be presenting this in a formal fashion, so you'll have to excuse the nerves a little bit, but we're gonna do our best. Okay. First thing I want to say though is that this is assuming that you already have a basic idea of what Lolita Fashion looks like, and we're going to be going over that, so don't worry. The main thing that I think is the most important is so that people understand what to look for in the fashion aesthetic, what elements to look for when you're creating your own Lolita, how to make it look good. And I have some examples of that as well. So, oh my gosh, welcome to everybody, So Desnet, of course. And we have Alestama. Oh, I can't read all the names. There's so many of you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're just going to get started. All right. Oh, look at all the ringy-dingies that we're getting. All right. So, moving to the first slide here, we are introducing you to the world of Lolita Fashion patterns. Now, where to find these patterns is going to be kind of a challenge, considering that a lot of these things are now out of print. But the most official patterns that you could possibly find are found in the Gothic and Lolita Bible. You have the Gosurori pattern books that is actually the predecessor to the Otome no Sewing books. It is the same publishing company. So the format is actually very similar. The Otome no Sewing books have been much more cleaned up, though. I think they're a little bit easier to read. That doesn't keep me from trying the Gosurori patterns. So the other source that you can find for patterns is Tea and Treadle. You might have heard that name before. I think they're probably the most reliable as far as offering plus size options. So if you're foray into making your own Lolita, which can be any number of things. Lolita is expensive, so maybe you want to try to make it yourself. The other one is maybe the sizing is wrong and you want to make sure that you make something that fits you. These two things are probably the most common reasons why you want to create your own Lolita, something custom tailored to you that is affordable for you, although keep in mind that there are some fabrics that are very expensive. So keeping it on the low-key kind of, budget area is probably your best bet too. Oh my goodness, am I missing things, or is people just saying hello? I think people are just saying hello. Oh, Lady Kyra, you're too kind. Thank you so much. I went all out today with the sparkles and everything. So anyway, moving on. So those are our options for patterns. However, I do want to go, and if you're looking for specific patterns, I am the owner of the Lolita Fashion Sewing and Pattern Archive, which you can find at my WordPress. I think if you do !blog, it will give you the link to that website. So if you wanted to peruse the list of patterns that are available in various issues, I try to have it somewhat organized. It is searchable, as it says. I have all of the Otome no Sewings, and I just ordered number 15, which I'm very excited about. So that's going to be going up as soon as I get my hot little hands on it. There it is. Thank you so much, Nerdy Bird, for that. So moving on, now we have the simplicity question. Now this is a little bit of a point of contention, I think. You look at this and you're like, yeah, okay, that looks like Lolita, right? Well, I actually made this pattern. There are a few available. I think there was one of the first ones. It's basically panned across the Lolita community, and one should keep in mind of the criticism that's involved with these patterns. Now, the pattern itself is okay, and the reason I mention this is I'm not going to tell you not to do the simplicity pattern. If you're going to start making Lolita for yourself, I think simplicity is probably your easiest bet, especially if you don't have experience with pattern drafting, Pattern drafting is a little bit more advanced, so I just want to be, I don't want to dash your dreams or anything, but it does take a little bit of skill and know-how to do pattern drafting. So doing a simplicity pattern, which is available in the United States, it has multi-size, which I put right here on the slide. Good for me. It's great for beginners for this reason, because it's readily available, comes in many sizes, has written instructions. However, you should be aware that there are a few caveats to this pattern in that the bodice length. Okay, there is a reason why the bodice length in many jump skirts and one pieces are shorter. And the main reason is so that it gives you some room for your petticoat to sit on top of your hips. So you need a little bit of ease in there. Now this bodice pattern on this particular simplicity pattern is a little bit longer, so it doesn't have that little space right above your hips so that the band of your petticoat can sit, because it's fluffy. It's got all that fluff in there. It's long. Yes, it is very long. I used the instructions from that pattern to make my first jump skirt, but drafted my own pattern. There you go. Well, you're a little bit more advanced, and I've seen your work before too. And you're also a quilter, so you have some sewing experience as well. That said, just do it as is so that you get a basic idea of how these things are put together. That's the main reason why I say go ahead and try this pattern. It'll give you the idea of what the elements are of the bodice, how it's put together, the shoulder straps, and then the skirt. Another thing, a lot of people, now you probably would know this, because if you're familiar with Lolita Fashion, you know that we don't usually have circle skirts. Somebody on the outside looking in usually think it's all fluffy and it must be a circle skirt. It's not the case. Most times it's a rectangle skirt. Still, it's great to have an idea of how the building blocks of a dress go together. So simplicity is a good start. Now, that said, it is the incorrect bodice length. The blouse design, especially the long sleeve blouse, I think the short sleeve blouse is okay, but that long sleeve blouse, I think there's issues. There are issues with that blouse. And also be aware that Simplicity has been notoriously copying their designs from indie designers and not giving them credit. Nor did they give them credit for that fabric print, the macaron fabric print. So I make sure that everybody knows where you can get that fabric print and who made it, because I think that's very important to give credit to the original print designer, for instance. Okay, so that covers Simplicity. Let's see. Oh, the armpits are also a little high and the straps are long too, and there you have to make adjustments. Yeah, that's... So if you're familiar with sewing, and most commercial patterns are not necessarily going to fit everybody. It's a very generic sort of shape, so there's always going to be some modification involved when you're making your own stuff. It doesn't matter if it's Lolita or otherwise. So yeah, long shoulders, long shoulder straps, all that stuff has to be done. Let's see, I just finished the dress from that and it was okay, but I think I have a long torso and shoulders, so, well, if it works for you, then that's perfectly fine. But again, you do want to keep in mind that you want that little space so that your petticoat can sit. Now, I have this slide up here. This is just to remind you all, even if you're a veteran, what a Lolita aesthetic should look like. I'm sure you have seen... Oops, I went too far. Let's see, where is my little guy right here? Here we go. I found out I have tools, so I'm very excited about this. All right, everybody has seen the silhouette of a Lolita. This is the anatomy of a Lolita image that I'm sure everybody has seen before. Now, if you are familiar with this, you shouldn't have to worry. However, if you are just first making your Lolita stuff, let's see, erase all ink, you want to make sure what the aesthetic should look like when you're creating it. If you already have the pattern from either a Gothic and Lolita Bible, they have patterns in there, or the Gasorori or the Otomino Sewing, it's going to be the right shape. Those are the most official patterns that you can find. If you're going into it on your own, just make sure it doesn't look like any of these options down below. Here we have a lovely lace monster, and I don't even know about the girth of that skirt. So anyway, basic examples of what not to do. So just try to avoid these mistakes. And we're also going to be going over trimmings and fabric types. So let's move on. Let's see. Oh, yes, good. Oh, so many people are doing a ringy dingy. I think it's subscribing or following or something. That's fantastic. I can't see it, so thank you, whoever you are. Now, again, I don't want to dash your dreams. If you want to make your own Lolita, I want you, if you're just starting out, to keep it simple. Now, here we have some examples. These are not in order, but the middle one here is probably the best example of a starting Lolita outfit that you might want to consider trying. You might notice that it's just a basic fabric. It has a couple of fabric bows over here and here and here in the center, and one simple line of ruffles at the hem. That is probably the simplest starting point that you can go with. And there are patterns like that. In fact, I think it's in the Otome no Sewing #1 that you can find a pattern like this. Over here, we have something a little more complex, but still achievable once you get to a level where you can do things like, over here we have tiny little pin tucks. Okay, this can be done at home if you have the skill. We have, again, a bow element here at the center. This is actually an A-line skirt that scoops in the back. It has a line of ruffles here. So all of this can be done with your home machine and a little patience. Then it has, of course, all the lines of ruffles, probably just a cotton ruffle underneath in a coordinating accent fabric. And then actually this is one piece. This is a faux blouse. So this is actually a one-piece dress. Okay? So once you learn how to do advanced techniques like pin tucks and adding your lace things, you've got your little buttons, all of that is achievable when you get to a more intermediate level or even a more advanced level. Then we have beautiful examples of hime. This would be a hime Lolita, and this is where I don't want to dash your dreams, but I'm afraid I have to, because I know you might want to make something like this. However, I want you to pay attention to all the ruffles of lace that are on here. This is not fabric, this is a lace trim. And lace trim is expensive. So if you're trying to set out to do something like this, there are so many lace elements. And also the chiffon, that takes a finishing technique. You can do it with an overlock machine, but there are rows and rows and rows of this expensive lace. It's probably $100 worth of lace right there, and then a little bit of technique in finishing the edges of chiffon. So if you are super advanced, yes, you can do this. And if you have a little extra scratch to pay for that lace, yes, you can do that. However, if you're just starting out, I want you to focus on doing something a little more simple and then working your way up to something a little more intermediate, maybe advanced, and then we can go crazy with our chiffon beauty over there on the side. Okay. And I will be doing some demonstration over at the table as well. Don't worry, this is not just a talking head. Am I missing something important here? I hope I'm not missing any questions, or I'm just talking. So we're good so far. Gosh, gorgeous pink rose fabric. I know, that is a border print fabric. So let's go into fabric types. So fabric types, I want to say, I have read on various forums that I want to dispel the myth that handmade Lolita is not good, for one, because I have seen this sort of discussion happen. I think handmade Lolita is the proudest thing you can have. Yes, you can spend $300, $400 on a dress, and that's great, and I love my pieces too. I only have a few of them, but I love them to death. However, I have never been more proud to wear anything than when I can say that I've made something. And even if it's a quilting cotton, I know people poo-poo the quilting cotton option. There are some really nice quilting cotton prints that you can use for a more everyday sort of style. For instance, that last slide we had right here, it's not a quilting cotton. This is probably either a sateen or a twill. Still, but it's in the same vein. Excuse me. And if you're starting out, you want to get something that's affordable. And the most affordable printed fabric that you can find is a quilting cotton. So if you wanted to get started, that's where I would say you start. So you have your basic cottons, so your solids. Okay, I don't want you to look at Kona cotton just to start because you might be disappointed. It is rather thick. It's a thick kind of cotton. So doing a basic cotton that has a little bit of a lighter hand to it, a lighter feel, is probably great to start with things like blouses. Then you have your cotton prints, your quilting cottons. And don't worry about using quilting cottons, especially if you're just starting out, because some of them are really cute. These are quilting cottons. I got these imported from Japan, but they are still considered quilting cottons. And look at how pretty they are. I haven't made anything with them yet. I have a fabric stash that I'm embarrassed to say is way too big. You have twill cottons. So a twill is very similar to a satin weave. So sateen is similar to that. Twill cotton is more of a little bit thicker. I didn't put Oxford here either. Oxford is another kind of weave that you can find in a cotton fiber. So you have your sateen, which is a satin woven cotton. That is probably my favorite fabric type to use for Lolita. I think I sold the rest of it to you, Lady Kyra. my beautiful gray with clockwork hearts sateen fabric, cotton sateen. Ugh, I love that stuff. It flows so nicely, it's so easy to work with, and it's a natural fiber. It doesn't have too much of a luster to it. Very, very, very minor. So it's not going to be like too ostentatious or gaudy, and it's just got a really nice feel. It's got a nice feel to it. All right, quilting cottons are fantastic to learn with, I think. I agree, Elliot, very much so. Yes, cotton sateen is my favorite too. As I said, my fabric stash is beautiful and shameful. Oh gosh, I know I've shown my shelves of fabric to everybody, and it's just tons of fabric. It's anyway. So once you have your base shell of your dress all settled on as far as what fabric you want to use, you might want to do something a little more advanced and use a lining. So then you have your lining fabrics, which are mostly satins. You have habotai or bembergs are names of satins, or you can just find lining satins at various places online, and I can show you that in a minute. You have your fancier fabrics. Let me go over these guys real quick. So a peach skin is sort of a velvet-like fabric, but it's not as thick. So it has the same hand or the same weight, I would say, as what would I say it would be close to? Not a gabardine, but probably close to a twill. And it just has a very soft, velvety type of finish on it. So it's very light, and it's more for a solid color sort of ensemble. You have a file. If you've ever seen this word before and wondered how to pronounce it, it's called a file. And it's kind of a ridged sort of corduroy-like taffeta. And then you have your basic taffeta, of course. So this is definitely more of a fancier fabric. Taffeta usually has a luster to it, so if you're going to be making anything out of it, it would probably be for a special occasion sort of dress. So if you're going to an afternoon tea party in the evening or something at some convention, you might have a taffeta dress on. Oh, Spoonflower's silky file is gone. I know. And I have opinions about Spoonflower. Spoonflower is very expensive, and I honestly don't think that their quality is quite up there. However, they do have a lot of indie designers coming in and posting their graphic designs for printing on fabric. So if you want to play with it, the basic cotton, I think it's called petal cotton, is probably your best bet. To make a dress out of. I have actually made a dress out of it before. It is a little bit thick. The darker the colors are, for some reason it's not very soft. Just keep that in mind if you ever order from Spoonflower. I don't want to dissuade you from trying it, but it is something to keep in mind. Bed sheets are legit, yes. So I'm going to be going over resources for finding fabric. Now, man, sewing with taffeta is just, I know, right? I mean, people do it. So, and it's got a great result. You kind of have to push through it to get to that end result and get that satisfaction of, look, I did this thing, I suffered through this. So for beginner sewers, yeah, I shouldn't say sewers, sewists, because sewers is sewers and that's not correct. So for beginner sewists, if you are just starting out, and you want to keep it within a certain budget, best places to find fabric that might have cute prints or anything that you want to play with, Joann's, which is expensive, so always go in with a coupon. They have an app you can get coupons for 40% off on regular price fabric. It's their gimmick. That's how they make their money. So if you don't have a coupon, you know, they make money off of that. So go in with a coupon. Hobby Lobby, I know it's been controversial in the past. However, they do have some really nice fabric options. I have purchased a lot of really cute border prints from them. So I like that. And then, of course, Walmart. If you're really just starting out and you're totally not sure of what to do, Walmart has very cheap fabric, and it has really cute prints, and you can give it a try with some Walmart fabric that they have in their craft section. I know, don't judge me now, but you know, if you're just making like a beginner style, I don't know what I'm doing kind of piece, you know, Walmart has really good prices to start. Once you get to a higher level, we can get into the other stuff. Also, thrift stores. We mentioned bed sheets in the chat. I've seen so many really cute dresses made out of bed sheets lately because, you know, everybody's kind of struggling, and thrift stores have the best prices for getting giant pieces of fabric out of bed sheets. So just make sure that they're not stained, wash them, and they can be turned into some really cute garments. Why are nice border prints so hard to find? You know, I wonder that all the time, and the only nice border prints I've ever been able to find have been from Japan. Japan seems to have the border prints. For instance, the image that is on this slide right now is from Lycian Corp. So Lycian is a Japanese textile company, and I had a few bolts of this because I decided to play with ordering from wholesale distributions at one point, and I ended up getting this beautiful Alice in Wonderland border print fabric. Yes, Lycian is the best. Lycian and Coca are probably the best for finding really cute prints, and especially border prints. They're just not as popular in the United States as they are in Japan. Go figure, I guess. Let's see, I wish my Walmart had fabric besides fat quarters. Oh, it's a small Walmart. That's too bad. Well, you're also in Canada, so I am sorry. My local thrift store even has a fabric section. Lucky. Oh my goodness. You're welcome, yes. Oh my gosh. Take a page out of Sound of Music. Yeah, right. I mean, you'd be surprised. Big sheets can be used for all sorts of things, like clothes. So once you get into a little bit more advanced skill, if you know what kind of fiber content you're looking for instance, if you know generally how things would feel before you order it, then you can order from online. If you know what the fabric is called, what the weave is called, the basic weaves that you might want to look for is like an even weave or broadcloth. You might want to look for an Oxford. You might want to look for a twill weave or a sateen. Those are my favorites. And then you would have an idea of what to shop for on things like fabric.com, which also has a huge selection of quilting cotton prints and some border prints, or at least some large graphic prints that you can maybe incorporate into a design on a skirt. Fashionfabricsclub.com is probably my favorite because they're what's called a jobber, and a jobber receives all the runoffs and the extras from other textile mills that they can't use anymore, so they send it to a jobber to resell to the public. So it's a lot of really nice designer fabric for really inexpensive prices. I have found really cute printed chiffons for like $4.95 a yard on fashionfabricsclub.com. I have just a huge collection of various fabrics. So if you want to look for not quilting cottons, but something a little more specific, like a file or a silk, or not silk, or they do have silk georgette, chiffon, linings, basic cottons, all that stuff is probably the best bet at fashionfabricsclub.com. You have online fabric store. So online fabric store is what I use when I'm looking for accent color chiffons. So they do have things like that at Fashion Fabrics Club, but if I have this really nice cotton print and I want more variety in my colors for what's going to be on the bottom or on the sleeves or on the shoulder straps for a trim, like a chiffon trim, I get it from Online Fabric Store because they have all the colors. They probably have a lot of color variation for linings as well, and minky, and just all kinds of things. So when I look for my solid accents, I go to onlinefabricstore.com. Then you have these other ones, Fabric Direct and Fabric Warehouse. These are a little bit less expensive if you're looking for something really specific and inexpensive. Those are options as well. So make a note of that. Mood is good if you are looking for something if you're looking for something like super super special and you want to spend the scratch on it, Mood is a great choice for that. I have actually been in Mood and it was the most exciting experience. They have 3 floors. I love it. A note on certain fabrics though that I wanted to mention. I think there was some discussion earlier on bamboo fibers and bamboo fabric being sustainable, and I kind of wanted to dispel that myth because it's not true. So bamboo being made into a fabric requires a lot of chemical process, and it's very similar to rayon. So if you're familiar with the environmental impact of the manufacture of rayon, it's the same for bamboo. Bamboo actually has a tensile strength that's stronger than steel. So in order to break down those fibers and make it into fabric, it's going to take a lot of chemical process to make it pliable enough to extrude it out of a spinneret and make it into a fabric. So just keep that in mind if you think that buying a bamboo fabric is sustainable, because it's actually not. And it's actually farmed in a monoculture, so it's more susceptible to fungi and bacteria and things like that. Sorry. So the best bet is probably cotton, linen, and even like certain polyester is made out of recycled plastics. So I know a lot of people poo-poo polyester, but honestly, polyester and polyester blends is not that bad. So who doesn't want a cat dress? That's cool to know about Feline Drive. I think I missed something, but that's okay. We're gonna do Q&A after a while, so don't worry about it. Also, one more thing about silk. Don't use silk as a lining because it will get eaten away by your sweat. Disintegrates with your sweat. So this is what file and peach skin generally look like. I know it's not the same thing as actually feeling it in your hands, but maybe you can sort of get an idea of the effect of light that it has on the surface. So again, that's a file. I have this beautiful navy color file that I've been meaning to make a sort of a fancier jump skirt out of with a belt. I wanted to make a belt because it's a little bit heavier than your typical fabric. And then your peach skin, it's very flowy. You have your border print, which we have seen already, and an all-over print. Again, this is an import from Japan. My unicorn with the rainbows and the moons. Yeah, silk would be an expensive lining. It is, and a lot of people use it because it's fancy, but it will disintegrate. So let's see. All-over prints, yes. We go into trims. So, what makes Lolita more Lolita? It's the kind of trims and lace that we use. So we have Venice lace, which is pictured. This is called a Venice lace. It's an embroidered lace. You have a Cluny lace, which is a cotton lace. And both of these things can actually be dyed really nicely, especially if, now I know I mentioned rayon is not really great for the environment, but you might find a lot of lace made out of rayon. Rayon actually takes color really well. It is a silk synthetic, so it will absorb that color, just like nylon does, actually. The only thing that doesn't absorb color with something like, something like RIT dye, for instance, is polyester. so polyester can't absorb anything because it is a plastic. So you would have to use a iDye poly or a RIT Dye-More for polyester dyeing. So if you get all this lace in white and you want to dye it a certain color, you can do that. Just make sure what the fiber content of the lace is. Next, you have a mesh lace. It's also an embroidered lace, an embroidered mesh lace. Venice and Cluny are my favorites. Yes, they are probably my favorites too, although I do love getting a mesh lace that has like a floral embroidered pattern on it because it looks super fancy and it is actually really, really soft. You have your cotton eyelet lace, and I kind of want to say that should be reserved more for like a country Lolita style or very low-key Lolita style. The eyelet lace tends to have, it's just a kind of a basic quality, but it's still preferred over Rochelle lace. We will go over that. Then you have your gimp braid, and gimp braid is more of a decorative applique sort of trim that you can add to certain things. This Venice lace I know so well. Oh yes, that the roses. I actually have a lot of that stuff. I love using that particular one too. So try to avoid Rochelle lace at all costs, and we will go over why. So this is what these lace trims look like. My personal favorite is using the mesh embroidered lace because adding that to a hem or a cuff or around your neckline is gonna really up it a notch. It's gonna be really beautiful. The Cluny lace is the second option for really like bringing that aesthetic up to a beautified sort of level. And there's different kinds too. So there is this kind that has one unfinished edge on it, and that would be the kind that you put into a seam or a hem. And then you have the kind that you might applique. It's got a double-sided finish on it, so you would probably apply it as an applique on certain areas. Let's see. I see that music note mesh lace everywhere all the time when I'm lace shopping. It haunts me. I know, and I actually have a lot of it because I use it for my Alice aprons that I have sold out of. I don't know, they're so popular, but I just ordered a ton of it, and it looks really, really cute around the hem of the skirt of that apron. So it is cute. Come on, it's cute. I know it's everywhere, but I like it. Whatever. So here's what all these laces look like, and we can go over. This is the gimp braid. This is a Cluny lace that has a scallop edge on it. We have a Venice lace that would be appliqued on. This is also a Venice lace. However, it has that one band going across, and that would be inserted into a seam for, you know, adding a little detail there. This one is a mesh embroidered lace and can be either inserted into a seam right around here or top stitched and appliqued on to make sure that this accent at the top remains visible. So these are both options that you can use with something like this lace. And the last one at the bottom is called a galloon lace. A galloon lace has two sides that are finished, scalloped like this for instance, and it's made to have a ribbon going through it. Actually, I was right the first time. It goes like this, little ribbon peeking through these holes. So that's a galloon lace. I know a lot of people are like, galloon what? Yeah, so these are the sources that I have for my lace trims. My favorite, I must say, is AliExpress. They have the best prices and you can buy them in bulk. So I'll buy lace like, let's see which one, like this one, the little butterfly bow thing. I think I got 20 yards of it for something like $15, and it's soft. It's not harsh and scratchy. Most of the stuff that you find at Joann's, for instance, is just so low quality. I don't understand where they get their lace from, but it's never really nice against your skin. So I avoid getting lace in shops that are local to me just because they are not there. Is it different from beading lace? Beading lace. You know what? I bet it is called beading lace too. I think I've heard that term in context to that. Galloon, yes, I usually call that beading lace. Okay, so yeah, I think that's correct, that it is also called beading lace. Either or. It's your search terms are specific to the region. So if you are searching for lace on places like AliExpress, I gave you some search terms here because they don't use the word Venice lace to describe this. They use water soluble or chemical lace trim. Also, embroidered lace is another option for finding things on AliExpress. Also, mesh lace, so the mesh stuff right here, is also called embroidered mesh lace or embroidery mesh lace. Cluny is usually called cotton lace trim on AliExpress. Those are your search terms if you wanted to find something on AliExpress. I think the same search terms apply if you wanted to purchase lace from Taobao sellers. However, there is a caveat with Taobao, if you're already not familiar with it, is that it requires the services of a shopping service for you. So you can't buy directly. I think that's probably why I prefer to use AliExpress, because I could just buy it without the middleman. But I do know that there are a lot of good options on Taobao. I think I've noticed too that a lot of those options translate to AliExpress as well. Whether that's true or not, I guess remains to be seen. Etsy is a good source as well, though the prices are a little bit higher. And eBay is another source that I have used personally to find specifically Venice lace. I think my best Venice laces have come from eBay sellers. And then I get a lot of the wider, longer mesh laces, embroidered mesh laces from AliExpress, because the price, you can't beat it. It's like, I think, $15, like I said, for 20 yards, or something equal to that for something that's like 10 centimeters long. It's really great. I can never find good lace at Joann's either. You are not alone. You are not alone. Alright, so, yes, Rochelle lace. No! No! No Rochelle lace. Do not use Rochelle lace. I will come over and I will beat you with a wet noodle if you get Rochelle lace on anything. Just don't do it. But that said, there is all over lace. So an all over lace is where the fabric itself is a lace, and there is a Rochelle all over lace. It can be snuck in a tasteful fashion if you know how to use it. So this is an example. This is a headdress that I made a while ago now. I made the ribbon roses out of ribbon, obviously, and I used a braid for the trim here, and then I just covered the whole thing with a very creamy sort of Rochelle lace. Nothing too ostentatious, and it's not hanging off the edges in like this scratchy sort of band of unpleasantness. So you can use Rochelle lace in certain contexts, in certain projects, if you do it tastefully. You like lace, right? Right? No, I mean, in moderation. I mean, it depends on what kind of lace we're talking about. Okay, so next slide. Do we have a next slide? We have a next slide. Okay, yes, you do need a machine. Let me explain to you why. I will explain why. First of all, machines can be purchased in various ways and from various places. Here are just two examples of what I have been able to find that are of an affordable nature. So the top one is about $75.99. I think it's sold on Walmart.com. And the other one is too. I actually have Project Runway Limited Edition, that gold one, exactly. And I use it for my tiny projects. So I actually have an industrial machine. It's a Juki 8700. I love that thing. It only does one stitch, but it does it really well. It's so strong, and it is solid steel, and it will never die, so long as I maintain it and keep putting oil in it and everything. But for the little things, having a small machine, even if you're just starting out and making a whole dress, you know, you have to have a machine. That bottom one, I think, is probably your best choice. It's only $145, brand new, and it makes the best buttonholes. I use it all the time for making my buttonholes. I have a Singer Stylist, and I kind of want a Juki so bad. Juki and Janome are probably the best ones. Brother has really overtaken the market lately, overtaking even Singer as far as their market presence, I guess you could say. So you see a lot of Brother these days as opposed to Singer. Janome is good, yeah. So again, if you want to start sewing Lolita, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you get a machine some way, somehow, sometime. You can probably find them, well, you can definitely find them at Joann's, but again, Joann's is expensive. I think actually Michael's sells machines. They don't actually have a sewing section. Michael's is not like a sewing resource at all, except maybe for quilting stuff. So I'm not actually sure if they have machines, but I know Joann does. I know Hobby Lobby does. You could probably find one online on, you know, Amazon or whatever. But if you don't want to go to any of those places, you could probably try looking for a vintage one or a working one at a thrift store. You can try online marketplaces. I think like Facebook Marketplace is a place that I've heard a lot of people getting pretty decent machines. Just make sure that it works and doesn't need repair, because that's going to cost you $80 out of the gate anyway. So, or your mom or your grandmother, or your aunt or whoever it is that might have a machine lying around that they're not using, and hey, you want to get into this sewing thing, and hey mom, I want to use that machine. Can I borrow it for like the next 5 years? You know, so any place that you can get a machine, I highly recommend that you get one. And I have to say, I have been asked this question before. Can I hand sew it? Now, technically yes. But you will get frustrated, especially if you're just starting out and you've never sewn before. It's going to take you a long time to get every stitch in there. You're gonna prick your finger. You're gonna do a whole lot of things, and I don't want you to give up before your project is done. The easiest way to get started is to make friends with a sewing machine and start sewing that way. Because even though you can hand sew it, if you don't have experience previously with hand sewing or construction of garments in general, it's just going to frustrate you. And I don't want you, as my new students, to get frustrated and give up. I want you to try this, and I want you to be persistent, and I know you can do it, okay? So let's put that to bed for now. Just don't hand sew Lolita. I mean, you could probably get away with something really simple, like that first dress that we saw, but just save yourself the heartache and the headache. Just get a machine or borrow one. Alright, so now we're getting into a little bit more advanced, because, like I said, the Gosurori and the Otome no Sewing books, they have diagrams. They don't expect you to pattern draft anything, though they do have that as an option in there. All of those do come with pattern sheets in them where you can trace them instead. In fact, that's probably how I started. I did not start drafting. Now, a little bit about me. I have been doing this for 20 years. I have been sewing for 20 years. I actually went to fashion design school in Los Angeles in 2002 and 2004. So I took pattern drafting classes before. I took draping classes before. So I already had a general idea of how to do it. But after 15 years or so, I hadn't really practiced enough. So when I wanted to start doing this and I got my first Lolita Otome no Sewing book, I was so excited, and it sat on my shelf unused because I was so nervous that I would make a mistake, and it stopped me from trying. I don't want you to stop yourself from trying just because it looks complicated. Once we get over that little hurdle of confidence, and I can show you how it's done and break it down for you, it might make a little more sense and be easier for you to understand, so you can actually get to that next step. I started with tracing, and that actually got me to the point where maybe I can start drafting this again. So the tracing is probably the easiest thing you could do. You'll need some Swedish tracing paper. I recommend at least 30 inches wide. You can get it in 24, but you really want that wide format tracing paper. You're going to need some markers, some pencils. You're going to need your rulers over here. You have two different kinds of rulers, two different options. Over here we have our super fancy designer set of rulers for pattern drafting. I actually have this set exactly. You have something a little bit more affordable that's plastic but still works, and it even comes with a tracing wheel. Yeah, what is this thing, you guys? What is this thing? Have you ever seen it? Do you know what it's for? Because I know I've gone over this on my stream. I do this all the time, and all my viewers, I get to tell them, like, remember this? Yeah, this is how we're going to use this thing. This spiky thing on a wheel, like, what the heck? Well, that's a tracing wheel, and marking fabric, actually, it's for marking another pattern. When you're transferring a pattern from your drape, or from a drafted pattern that needs to be separated, you use your tracing wheel to poke holes in the paper underneath so that you trace your pattern to a new one. It's a spiky boy. It's a pizza cutter. Nerdy burb. You're so funny. So once you get past the tracing level of your skill, you might want to try drafting, and then you're going to end up using a tool like this when you're drafting. Drafting also includes something, now I use banner paper. I actually found a really great price of banner paper at Staples, 30 inches wide. I think it's 30 feet long. It's a roll. For $6.99 at Staples. I love it. And I have like 2 other rolls over there. I'm like hoarding it. Every time I go in, I buy like all the rolls. The other thing that you might want to use instead, if you can't find banner paper, you can order this on eBay. This is pattern dotted paper for pattern making. And then of course you have your Swedish tracing paper. So, now that we went through all of that, what do we have here? So this is the pattern sheet, about what it looks like when you have a Gothic and Lolita Bible. So a lot of them, in fact, I think all of them have a set of patterns that you can trace. Their traced patterns have seam allowance. And this is basically what it looks like. This is actually one of my favorite jump skirts to make. This is out of the Gothic and Lolita Bible number 42. It is an official pattern by Innocent World, and it's got the sweetheart neckline. It's probably one of the first things I ever made when I realized that these books had patterns in them. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm trying this. So I ended up making this. I can't read a word of Japanese, but I already had the experience, like from using simplicity patterns, on what the basic shapes meant, what they were, and how to put them together. So I didn't necessarily have to have the written instructions, thankfully. That's kind of why I recommend starting with the simplicity one, so you have that knowledge of, oh, this must be the side bodice, side front bodice, this must be the back side bodice. I found dotted paper on Etsy too. There's a supply store that sources their notions and paper from the LA Fashion District. Yeah, that's probably very true. So one of my favorite sources for pattern tools is Gold Star Tools. They actually have a lot of sewing tools as well, but I think they also sell things like dotted pattern paper, manila paper for your finals, because in the fashion industry, for instance, patterns are not folded, they are hung with little pattern hooks, so, and then filed. So you have manila fold, like a cardstock, and those are your final patterns. So they sell that sort of thing, marking supplies, all that stuff. I love Gold Star Tool. They're the best. Yes. Yes, more people recognizing Gold Star Tool. All the business there. Thank you. So tracing your pattern, again, is probably going to be your easiest best bet to get started. However, here we have this monstrosity. I don't want you to panic. Take a breath. Just look at it with calm. And we're going to be going over this. Let's see. How much time do we have left? Can somebody tell me? Please let me know. What time is it? I don't even know what time it is. Oh, is it 4:30 already? Oh, no. Oh, wait. No, that's okay. We're okay. I have a 90-minute panel. I was, like, worried for a second. We're good. Yeah, 45 minutes. Okay. We got this. Yeah, you're halfway. All right. So this is Otome no Sewing number 1, the very first one that ever came out. I was heartbroken when I found out that the Gosudori magazine was canceled. I looked everywhere for it when I found out about it too late because I wanted to get my hands on it. It's like, oh my god, official Lolita patterns? Heck yes, I want this in my life. I couldn't find it anywhere, and then, like, a few months later, this was announced. I'm like, Otome no Sewing, it's a new pattern magazine for Lolita. Yes, I want this. And so I started collecting all of them as soon as they were released. So this is from the first one, and because they were magazines, they are out of print now. which is why I like to share the information within it to everybody, because you can't find it anywhere else. You can only find it from resellers or people who don't want them anymore. So I scan the pages and I have it on my website. That's what my website is for archiving. So this issue, the first one, is available in its entirety on my website. If you go to my website and go to list of patterns, and go to Otome no Sewing number 1, you should find a download link for this issue. So I wanted to share that with you because this is going to be our class material today. So what I wanted to go over, first of all, this outfit is a separate. So it's got a separate bodice right here, and then a rectangle skirt. So this one's actually pretty simple. The most complex thing that you're going to be working with is probably the shape of this bodice. And then you have your backside over here. So you can usually tell which one is your front and which one is your back based on which half you're looking at. This starts on the right side and goes this way, and that is your front side. So if it goes this way, that's your back side. All right, and oh my gosh, what a mess. Look at all those numbers. What are you going to do with all these numbers? Okay, so something to keep in mind if you've never seen this before is that these patterns come in 3 sizes: small, medium, large. So small, medium, large. And that means that you have different measurements for your points in small, medium, and large. So that's what we're going to be looking at. We choose a size. You can't mix and match these sizes because it's drafted to match just the one size to itself. So you pick your size. I'm going to probably be doing a large today. And we're going to be making this front bodice. Let's see how fast we can draft this today, because that's going to be our table project. So before I get started, because this is so clear, I think, for you guys right now, it's a great opportunity for me to explain things on what we're going to be looking at. The first thing we need to establish, if you're drafting this pattern, now I do understand this is a little bit more advanced, but just hear me out. The first thing you need to do is your box foundation. It's always going to have a basic box foundation. You have your widest point going this way. You have these numbers. We're going to be doing the large. We're going to be going from this side to this side, and then we're going to be going from the bottom corner up this way all the way to the top, and we're just going to be following all these little points going this way, going down, and then you have your box. And then it goes in, and then you do all your little tweaks and adjustments. But your basic box is how you start with this. There is one thing, too, where you have up here is your little fold. That's how you fold out your dart and shape the princess seam a little bit better. So that's just a little trick. Once it's cut out, you just snip out that triangle and paste it back together so that it kind of goes flunk like that. All right. So, are we ready to get started? Are we ready to do this? Yeah, there you go. Everybody gets a copy. Oh man. Yeah, I know a lot of people were heartbroken when they found out this particular issue was no longer in print, but fear not, I got you covered. So I think that's where we're gonna do our table demonstration. Whoo boy. Are we ready to get started? Alright. Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna be setting up over there, so be right back. think we're good. Can you see me? That is what we're going for. Hang on a second. So, you might know this about me if you watch my streaming tutorials a lot. I tend to go back and forth here and there, but I'm always trying to pay attention. Alright, and we're back! We have our table set up. So here we have our different tools. Can you hear me? You can hear me, right? We're good? Is it? Yeah, okay, I see. I see it! Why? Why would you do this to me? There we go. Oh my gosh, there are 69 of you watching me right now. Hello, hello, hello. So, first of all, I want to say, here is that Staples paper that I told you about. I get it for $6.99 at Staples. It is a 30-inch wide, 52 feet. Oh, I didn't realize it was that many. And it's perfect for pattern drafting. So if you don't want to spend the scratch for a dotted pattern paper, you can always just go to Staples. Or you can find banner paper. I think Paycon is another brand that you can use if you can't find the Staples stuff. And it comes in a roll, so it's going to be curly. And by the way, you can iron paper. So this paper right here is already pre-ironed. I know. I love telling people you can iron paper. It blows people's minds. It's awesome. It's like, yeah, it's just fibers. Alright, sound is good. Yes, let me know. Let me know if it gets scratchy, because I hate it when the distance causes the connection to get a little scratchy. So here we have my pattern drafting rulers. If you don't have the budget for getting these metal rulers by Fairgate, you can instead get this from Joann Fabrics. It's a Dritz styling design ruler, but it has all the basic shapes right here. You have your hip curve ruler right here, you have your graph ruler, and then you can use this bit at the top as a French curve or armhole ruler. That's what these are called. Then, aside from these, you might need a graph ruler. Otome no Sewing is in metric. That should be stated clearly. So it's in metric. While I do have my Imperial graph ruler, and I do use this a lot, I do have one in metric, which I had to find on eBay, of all places. So a metric graph ruler, most of the time, the seam allowance is in 1 centimeter, which if you don't have a metric ruler, you can use 3/8 instead. It's close enough. So 3/8 is just about 1 centimeter. So, getting started, I have mine printed out right here because it's just easier instead of trying to keep the book flat for me. So, we are going to start. Also, I need to move away my iron for the time being. And we are going to start drafting stuff. I like to start with a pencil, just in case, but I think maybe for the sake of this tutorial, we will be doing a Sharpie so you guys can see it. Let's hope we don't make any mistakes. Alright, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of a close-up here. There you go. Can you see that okay? So we're going to start with our box. Let me move my hair out of the way. Here we go. I'm going to start at the bottom so I can at least have a little bit of room here. Oh, Carol's YouTube channel. Yes! Yes! And I also have a tutorial for drafting patterns from Otome no Sewing already. I do the A-line skirt. I forget which issue that's from. But it is there! I do these things. Okay. So because all these measurements are in metric, if you were wondering, like, what the heck, we're going to be using our metric ruler. Now, again, what I like to do is start with the widest point, and you'll usually find that somewhere in the middle, which might meet from the underarm to the center front right here. So the widest point on this particular piece, you might have to look for the little swooping arrows here, but this is indicating that our widest point is going to be 22.5. So we're doing the large size. That means I'm going to be looking at the bottom number of this little stack of 3 every time. Okay, so 23.5 is our widest point. We're going to be doing 23.5 right here. Okay, and then, now that we have this established, we're going to move over to the side and build up. So 7.8 is our first measurement right here. My hair is super flowy and in the shot. I'm wearing a really long wig right now. What did I say? 7.8? Okay, 7.8 is here. We have the next section between these dots. 18.5, 18.5. 18.5. And then we have the last section at the top right here from this point. 5.4. 5.4. There we go. Alright. So going across the top, we're not going to be doing the same measurement as the widest point like we did. We have a separate measurement for the neckline. That's going to be 14. So we're going to square across. Squaring across is probably easier done with a graph ruler like this because you can see through it, line it up with these lines here, and make sure that you're going in a straight line. So what did I say it was? 14? Alright, we're going to find 14. We're going to measure behind the line. So see, I have my line right here. This line is pretty thick right now, so I'm going to be measuring just behind it to compensate. And we're marking and we're making a line. Now I didn't do that right because I didn't actually do it at the dot. This is why we use pencil, everybody. But it's okay, this is for science. We're fine. Okay, so if you do have a copy of this particular diagram, you might be able to follow along a little bit better. But we are going to be going back to this dot right here, and we're making that widest point again so that we can get where the underarm goes. So that was what, 23, 22.5, 22.5 right here. 22.5 right there. So then we just connect this. This is going to swoop down, but for now we just need to mark it. Again, use a pencil if you're doing this. I'm doing this so that you can see the lines. Is that measuring everything from the bottom or from each sequential point? Everything from the bottom. Oh, from each sequential point, yes. So it's like we're just getting the measurement for that particular section. So we go up 7.8 dot, from there up 18.5 dot, from there 5.4. That's how that's supposed to work. Okay, so now you can sort of see we're getting our basic block kind of worked up here. It's kind of hard to... It's close enough. So now that we have the foundation of what we're doing here, we can go further and start filling out what the rest of this means. So, for instance, here at the top, which is where the neckline swoops down, we need a gap from this top point right here of about 3.2. So we're going to be doing 3.2 down. It's very precise, 3.2 right there. Okay. And it kind of gives you a little bit of a guide as far as like where this swooping starts. I'm going to be using... So it's not an exact science. It does not have to be exactly, like the depth doesn't have to be exact. You can still get the right shape without having it look exactly the same. So here, I'm using my hip curve ruler. And I'm going to be trying to match up a little bit here. So I'm going to get this nice little swoopy neckline. So okay, it's landing a little bit above that. That's okay. It's still going to be great. Again, does not have to be perfect because this is your design. This is just a suggestion. This is just a guideline to give you an idea of how this is done. Now the depth here, it says should be about 1.7. Okay, so if you really wanted to be a stickler about it, what I do, let me get a pencil, which might be a little bit better. What I like to do, if it says it has a certain depth, for instance, this needs curve. It says that the depth here for the large size should be 1.7. So where's 1.7 away from this line? 1.7 lands. Really, 1.7? That's deep. 1.7 is going to be like right about here. So then what I like to do is make a parallel line, kind of where that dot is. Just go like this, very light. And I'll use that as my guideline when I'm shaping my arm here. So I know that I don't want to go past this line. So here, and also if you're using a pencil, your lines can be a little bit more precise. But there you go. Now we have our shaped underarm. So we have this swooping heart, sweetheart neckline, and then we have our underarm. So that is actually pretty good so far. We need to shape the waist. It gives you these right here. Now we are going to go over that dart, so don't worry. First things first, let's make a line going across where this first little dot was right there. Okay, just to give us a guideline. Okay, so that's our guideline. We want to go in at that line this way horizontally because this is waist shaping now. This is shaping the waist 1.5, which is right here. Okay. Alright. And yeah, we're just going to be following this down. Now this does go up, but this is our beginning for now. It does have a little bit of a swoopy action that goes around the hip over here. Am I missing anything? Sorry, guys. Dropbox link. Yes, so if you want to follow along, you can get this copy of the Otomino sewing book and try it for yourself. So yes. Okay. So you're gonna come across these little symbols that basically look like a zero. It's an O with a slash through it. That basically means it has to match the opposite side or whatever it is that it attaches to. So whatever the measurement ends up being, those have to match. And that's a pattern drafting thing. When you're walking your pattern to make sure that your side seams, for instance, are going to match up, or if you need to make adjustments, you need to make sure that that happens by matching it up and finding the, matching the measurements together. So for this bottom part, it's telling me that whatever this ends up being, the same has to be on the bottom part for the back, because it does swoop up a little, and that's going to change the length of this line. So what it's telling me as well is that there is a right angle symbol right in this corner over here. And that's what we use something like an L-square ruler for. So we need to make sure that that swoop has a right angle to it. I don't want to make it too tall. And just kind of do this however long or short you want to. Okay, so now we have our right angle. So now, whatever the length of this line is, has to match on the back side, which we're not going to be going over today, but I just wanted to be clear about what that symbol means. Okay, let me also just highlight this part right here so you can better see that underarm swoopiness. And then you have the middle bits, and you have the side dart that actually gets closed. So let's finish doing our measurements here. You also sometimes have a star symbol in the Otomino sewing books, and that might have a legend somewhere nearby. For instance, right here is where the star symbol equals, because there's probably not enough room to put those numbers there. So whatever the width is for the large size, for the center front piece, which for this one is 7.9, is what we'll be measuring out from the center. Move this guy over here. What is it? 7.9? 7.9. 7.9. Right here. Alright, so that's going to be the beginning of our princess seam, right here in the center. So this particular design has a princess seam, so we're going to be shaping the waist a little bit here. So, that done. We have the opening here for shaping the side bodice. We need to go down. So like a little bit right here on the side left part. We need to go down 5 centimeters. 5 centimeters. 5 centimeters. Yeah, I guess 5 centimeters. That's a lot. So it's 5 centimeters from this point to here. Okay. We're going to square across, again with our little squaring graph ruler method. Just kind of lightly. Doesn't matter how long it is. We're going to figure that out after a while. And then we need to make sure that the gap that we're putting here is, as it says here, 2.5 is going to be the gap size. 2.5 right here. So we're not going to draw that bottom part yet because we need to figure out where our princess seam is going to go. So this gap is going to be at the end, meeting up with that princess seam. So let's find out where it's going to live. So let's make sure we have our dart shaped here. 3, we have 3. So it's 3 centimeters wide at the dart. Yeah. 3 centimeters wide. Boink, right there. And we need to find the center. Although it is telling me, it's a little bit more on the center front than it is on the side, so that means it's not going to be exactly at the center. Let's do it at 2. 2. Kind of right here. I think the easiest way is probably just to find the center, but they're suggesting not the center. So I'm going to draw this line. Alright, so here you kind of start to see how this shaping is working. It still needs that squaring. It needs to be right angled. Because in this design, it's got like this little, like a peplum, sort of like a peplum design on it. Okay, so we're just gonna do our best and do that. Now, I want this to match up here. So let's see how long I ended up making it. Wow, that's like spot on 7 centimeters. I am that good, I guess. I'm just gonna make sure that we do the same thing on the other side, and we're gonna make that 7 centimeters. My hair is getting everywhere. Alright. So now we can clean this up a little bit. That'll come later. We can soften these points by just kind of drawing it a little bit. We don't have to have it so sharp when it's coming down. There. Okay. So the princess line, the princess seam, is this seam that goes right basically over your bust. And we're going to be drawing that in. So let's see what we get if we try to use our hip curve ruler, because it's got a subtler curve than the armhole ruler. So I want to kind of make sure it's not going to be too curvy at the top. Let's see what this looks like. It's not bad. And then we want to make sure right around here. So I'm not going to be going at the top for the second part. Doing right where that line that we drew across was. That was my point right here. So now we have this shaped. And now, because we have our intersection, after drawing that line without a measurement, we know that that's the intersection where this gap stops. Alright, this is going to get cut out, and then we're going to shape it so that we get a sharper, or not sharper, a little bit deeper of a curve for that princess line. Basically, this is all there is to it. This is it. This is the front. So this is where we might use, for instance, our tracing wheel. Let me get that out. So the tracing wheel, oh, all my stuff here. So this is that tracing wheel I was telling you about. What you would do once you have this all drafted, notice that you have your center front, your side front kind of put together in one piece. You want to have seam allowance between these pieces. So in order to separate that without losing the integrity of the original draft, you want to put another piece of paper right underneath here, and then you're going to be separately tracing your little corners down here because it's a straight line. You don't need to copy the entire straight line. You can use your ruler to redraw it. When you have curves, once you get your little crosshair here, you're going to follow that curve right here. You cross mark. And then you're going to go down here from your cross mark and follow the curve, because remember we redrew this little bottom part right here. Follow that curve very carefully. Cross mark, cross mark. Cross mark, cross mark, because it's straight. This part's straight, you can redraw it later. But the curve, you want to be as exact as possible. You're going to follow that. So once that's transferred with little itty bitty punctures on the under paper, you then have the basics of your center front piece. Then you go around and you have to add seam allowance to it, which typically is about 1 centimeter. And you would do the same thing for the side piece. Now, because we still have one step left to do here, I will go ahead and show you what that looks like. And I know, I think I'm running out of time, but I do want to show, if I can, very quickly. We have this piece. So you would actually cut this out. Can I get it though? Okay. So here, you need to close this little gap so that you have a better shape of that bodice. I would cut right up here, right to the end, close your scissors, don't cut all the way through. Meet that line over the next one. Tape it right here. Trace this, redraw this as a straight line. Don't worry about this gap right here. And then that's going to be your side bodice piece. So, I think I am running out of time. It is 5:02. Oh my god, I am so sorry. You guys, you have been amazing, and this has been an amazing experience. Thank you so much for joining me for this panel. I think we covered as much as we could. Yeah, I hope you learned something. Again, this is available on my website. By the way, I also have a Patreon if you guys want more patterns that I've been producing with this amazing program called Clo 3D. I've been actually able to size up the basic 3 sizes from Otome no Sewing into more plus-size friendly versions, or custom tailored. My supporters on Patreon have allowed me to continue doing that while just doing something that I love, and also providing patterns in larger sizes direct from Otome no Sewing, Gosurori, and the Gothic Lolita Bibles, translating the Gothic Lolita Bibles into plus-size patterns, all that stuff. So that's my Patreon, I got my website, I got my Discord. You guys can have fun with us over at the Lolita Sewing Discord channel. And yeah, I really hope you learned something. This was a lot of fun, and I guess it's on to the next panelist, which I am a bad panelist, I don't know who it is. But thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you guys hopefully in the near future. Have a wonderful rest of the event. Bye. Can I do it? Yeah.